let's talk about what it means to surrender completely, to let go completely, and how this helps us heal ourselves, our bodies. Hi, my name's Lisa with Lisa Heal Yourself, and I want to start by saying if you have chronic illness, chronic symptoms, chronic pain, chronic suffering, and you're on the journey of healing yourself, the ultimate healing comes with letting go and surrendering to what actually is. So when we start the journey, if you think you might have symptoms and you might have pain and you have physical suffering. And a lot of that comes from the fact that we believe we are our body, right? We identify with the physical body. I am the body, and the body is in pain, therefore I am in pain, right? I am the body. So we identify on this level, the physical level, that's what we are. And you might shift your diet, you might try a whole bunch of body work, you might do physical activity, you might do all kinds of different things to try to fix the body, heal the body itself. And some of those may work, some of those may help. But if this is a chronic illness, a chronic condition, usually the problem is deeper and more chronic than just of physical nature. Sorry about that. My dog got tangled up on the leash. Okay, so if you identify with the body, right, it means you're trying to fix the physical because you believe that's all there is, that's all you are, that's all you perceive yourself to be, is truly just yourself in a physical body. If that doesn't work and it's chronic and it goes on longer, you realize, man, I'm not fixing my physical body with my physical things that I'm trying, right? All the physical modalities and all the physical things that you've been trying aren't working. So you start to go to the mind and you realize, wow, my body is my mind. Whatever I perceive by the mind is literally the body. So those are all your thoughts and your emotions. And you begin to do the inner work, right? Because you know that what's being held inside and what your mind perceives and thinks of and how your mind fixates on things and how your mind holds on to things and how all the thoughts and emotions are creating your physical body. So you realize, I am the mind. I am the mind that perceives the physical body. And you realize, and you start to do all this work and you really start to understand that you are above just the physical body. You are the mind controlling the physical body. And that's where, some miracles can happen, where people begin to heal. They begin to use their mind to heal their bodies. But then there's a third level, okay? Because sometimes, we never need to go there, but some people need to go further because this is chronic, it's deeper, it's more ingrained, and they need to learn even further than that they are not the body, and no, they are not the mind, but they are the one that perceives the mind, right? They are the eternal, never-ending soul behind the mind, watching the mind, watch the body. And that's what it means to let go and transform. When you get to that level, where you understand that the next step in the journey is knowing that you're the witnesser, the observer, right? You are more than just your mind and your body. And you witness, you observe, you step back, you're detached, you watch, and you have the ability to surrender and to let go of all of it. So that is where this channel is going. And that's where the biggest healing happens, when we surrender and when we let go of the body and the mind, and we surrender as the witnessing observer who is watching and who is not tangled up in the suffering, but rather it's the all-encompassing everything that you already are. The pure health, the pure love, the pure happiness. You're successful. You are already everything in this state. And it's in this state that you realize that no matter what goes on with the physical body, or your thoughts, or your emotions, or your mind, it doesn't have to change. It doesn't change the observer, right? The all-knowing, the soul. And so no matter what comes and goes, what physical sensation comes and goes, what mind chatter comes and goes, what emotion comes and goes, you start to realize that it all comes and goes, right? And you step back and you surrender to the process of this coming and going, and you help it along by surrendering and letting go. So we're going to break this down just a little bit more now. So there's something about this state of being, this witnesser, this observer, that people think is very weak, right? Well, then doesn't it even matter that I have this physical symptom or these emotions? Or like it's so distant, it's almost like standoffish to stand back and be the observer and just like observe these. But this is what I think. A lot of people think this is kind of the highest level. And I truly think this is just the midpoint. This is just the midpoint where you begin to let go, you stand back and you realize, if you're realizing that you're not the body and you're not just the mind watching the body, but you're the observer watching the mind watch the body, in that observer state, I feel is right in the middle, is the energy of neutrality. So this is neutral. So this is the state that we want to get to in order to ascend higher. But we must first get here to neutrality. And I think that's what stepping back, looking and observing and being detached, and you can see your body. Sometimes you can see your feelings and your thoughts and your emotions all pass by, and you can realize they are not constant, right? They're always changing. They're not really real. They shift, they move. You're observing and you can see things come and go. And as you look at something, as you attend to a feeling, it's not that we try to ever push it away in this state. We fully observe whatever is in our view. So if it's grief and we're fully observing in a detached way this grief and watching it and allowing it to talk and feel, and it will pass through. So we ultimately end up transforming it by watching it, but not by trying to get rid of it or pretending it's not there, not pretending that it doesn't exist or that we're somehow, superior to it because we're watching it. No, we allow it in its fullness. This is really where we don't have resistance. We allow it to be there in its fullness and realize it won't kill us, right? So it's the state of non-resistance. And it's the state of true neutrality here. But then I believe there's a state that's higher. And it's this awareness, this true awareness that all the energies, all the thoughts, right? All the physical sensations, all the energies are available to us. And that we've only truly been looking and observing at the lower ones. We're an expert in looking and feeling and understanding the lower vibrations. And those are the ones we're attuned to or tuned into. But that there's a whole other field, right? An energy field around us with love, gratitude, joy, happiness, and we've forgotten how to tune in. So ascending is really just climbing to a higher state of being and tuning in to the higher field and ultimately tuning into pure love, which is what we all are. And when we're tuned into there, sort of everything else melts away because nothing else matters anymore. So this is the way that I think we transform. And this is the way that a lot of times when we're on a serious chronic healing journey, we go from one stage to the next stage, and ultimately we realize that everything's a state of energy and that we are the witnesser watching all of this, and that not only are we just watching in neutrality, but we have the opportunity to be and feel all the higher states, right? Everything that we want is there available to us if we would only look at it, feel it, allow it, right? Reach out and grab it. So it's all there. We just need to tune in and allow it to, nothing else to get in its way, really, because the only thing that impedes this highest frequency of love is everything else getting in the way, right? It's just like a radio station. Everything else is getting in the way of tuning into this perfectly clear sounding vibration of love, and we're letting everything else get in the way. So once we get to neutrality, most of the hardest work has been done. If we can always only get to neutrality, people can hear and miracles can happen at this state. But it's when we take it to another level and we realize that we can climb to higher vibrational levels, even than neutrality, and that we can stay there, and that we can just tune there, and that we can live and flourish there, right? Without resistance and without guilt, without any of those other feelings ever needing to be looked at or grabbed anymore. So that's really where we're going with this. And so why do we look and hold on to and focus most of our energy on these lower states, on like grief and shame and guilt and sadness and anger and despair and jealousy and envy and pride? Like, why do we focus? Why are those comforting to us? Because as we're looking at those, we feel, that we are getting something from them. They're ultimately giving us some form of protection or love or connection or closeness. We're getting something from focusing on those emotions. We feel that they are protecting us, keeping us safe and loved in some way in this world. And without them, without focusing on them, we wouldn't have any of this. Because if all emotions are available to us and we want to be happy and experience joy and health and gratitude and hope and love, then why don't we focus on those? Why don't we put our attention there? Right? We're so afraid to let go of the lower vibrations because they mean love and security. Without them, we feel like we would be lost. We would be unsafe in some way. We would be vulnerable, right? We would not be able to survive. We need these states as a way to gain whatever it is that we need to gain: love, comfort, connection, security. It keeps us connected to the world around us, right? And we can use these states as a way to manipulate other people to give to us what we need, and want what we need in this world. So if the higher states are available to us, but we choose the lower ones, the way that we become neutral about this is we are willing to feel them in their fullness. So when we realize that we're in, a deep state of grief, for example, or an irrational state of anger or irritation, or a feeling of despair or hopelessness, right? When we are feeling this wave coming over us that's swallowing us up, we have to be willing, as the neutral observer, to allow it to express in its fullest, not so that it can take us over, but rather so that we can dissolve it. So there's an intention to looking at it, and it's not just so that we can feel our feelings, because we're already good at feeling those states. We don't need to look at them and make them bigger. But when we allow it to be there in its entirety, in its full state, right? We're sad, we're grief-stricken, maybe we feel this brokenheartedness. We allow it to be there, we look at it. And as we look at it, we do so with a critical eye. We say, why are you there? What are you to gain? What is it really? And we allow it to tell us. We allow it to move. And we allow it to change and morph and transform in front of us. Because once we fully feel it and we fully understand why it's there and what it does for us, and how we gain as a result of it, how we gain love or connection, or what it's doing for us in some way, how it's keeping us safe or allowing us to survive another day. And we realize that that's a facade, that we actually don't need that, because we would be better off grabbing the higher state, the love or the joy, and it would do more for us. So it's really being brave enough to feel it in its entirety so that you can see the messaging behind it, so that you can see its truth, the presence of its truth, like what is at the root of it and why is it there, and how do you perceive that keeping you loved or safe or protected or connected in some way. And then realizing, seeing the truth, that that's actually not true, right? And so actually, what it means to surrender is to look at each feeling, right? Not thought, because thoughts go crazy, but each feeling as it arises, whether it's grief, shame, guilt, whatever it is, and sit with it long enough. Look to surrender that feeling. Look to let that feeling go. Try to understand why it's there and what you're getting from it. And as you let it go, as you turn to it, and basically you're turning to look at it, to say like you're not there. It's like a child who thinks there's a monster in the closet, and you turn on the light and you stare at the closet. You realize like, hey, it's not there. So you're turning to these feelings, you're flicking on the light and you're looking at them, realizing they're not actually the monster. They're not actually, you don't actually feel that way. You're using that as a mechanism to get something. And when we're able to see that clearly, when we're able to see the truth, we can surrender that feeling. And then another emotion may come up. It may be anger, or it may be frustration, or it may be aloneness, or abandonment, or whatever. And then we look at that. Is that really true? Is that, is that emotion true? And what am I longing for? Why am I using this emotion? Why am I clinging to this emotion? Why am I sitting in this? Because anytime you sit in an emotion for longer than you need to, you're using it for your own benefit somehow. You're using it to get something. Something will come to you from hanging on to that emotion. Whether you're just continually making yourself safe, you're getting some sort of a connection. It keeps you isolated from people, and you don't have to go out there and go for what you want. There's so many different reasons, but as we sit and we're brave enough to unravel them and allow them to pass, we surrender them, a new one might come up, and then we surrender it, and we realize we're at neutrality. When we're at neutrality, we're just an observer, and we're like, wow, this thing that bothered me a minute ago doesn't even bother me anymore. This thing I was heartbroken over isn't even a thing. This thing that I was so frustrated at, I was just snapping at everybody, doesn't have a charge for me anymore. And once the charge is gone, we're at neutrality. Then it's our job. This is the part as you step through transformation, is like, what can you grab that gets you closer to what you want? So if hanging onto fear or frustration or anger or guilt is not getting you closer to what you want or your true self, what emotion can you grab that passes by that is? What can we turn towards? How can we get to a higher and elevated state, right? And that's the second part of the work. But the first is just to get to neutrality, to be the observer, to transcend, to let go, to see it for what it is, to see the truth of it, to let go of it, to surrender it, to accept it. And once we're there, once we're at true neutrality, then once we see that, the whole world can open up to us. Like if all these emotions are passing by us, why and where is the joy? Why and where is the love? Like, how can we grab this and bring this into our field? How can we get onto this vibrational plane, right? So I hope that this has been a valuable introduction and a really good video for you to understand how to surrender, how to let go, what it means to actually, sit with these feelings and really look at them until the charge disappears. So we're not trying to push them under. We are allowing them in their fullness. And as they are fully expressed and looked at, we realize they're not the monsters in the closet. We realize they're we don't need to use them to gain whatever we think we need to gain, and we can turn towards what we really do want in our true vibration. We can turn towards those higher vibrational emotions and fields that are really going to keep us living a healthy, happy life. Because then these are the ones we grab onto, these are the ones we live by, and the rest cease to exist because we're not grabbing them anymore. And when we look at them, we don't even have to look at them for long, they're just melting away. So this is the place we want to get to, and we're going to work at it this year. So I hope it's been a great video, and I will see you in the next one as we do some more work to really understand the steps of this.